No, my lawyer said I can't be Stevie Nicks. I'm just a generic, non-specific look-alike.
And welcome to the generic, non-specific look-alike Stevie Nicks podcast. I'm your co-host, Randy Ham, and next to me is my best friend.
Anthony Lower. Hey guys, hello everybody. So excited.
We're recording from halfway across the country. I'm in Odessa, Texas. Anthony, where are you today?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, almost.
Almost.
Nearby.
Philadelphia adjacent,
There you
I
go.
guess. This is the pilot episode, so you're not going to hear a lot of structure today, and we don't even know if this is going to make it on the web, but it's our proof of concept. And we wanted to start by talking about how Stevie came into our lives and also how we came into each other's lives. So, Anthony, I know you've told me this 1,000 times, but when's the first time you remember Stevie Nicks?
I knew of her early Fleetwood Mac stuff when I was a teen, a young teen, a very young teen, but I didn't know who it was. I knew the songs. And then in 1981, I was standing in a cafeteria in my first year of college, about to hand the cashier money for like yogurt and grapes. And I heard the opening piano sounds to a song and then the opening vocals. And I went, wow, what was that? Of course, before internet, before cell phones, I just had to hear the song. It was Belladonna, the title track from her solo album. And then I had to take my ass to the record store and stand there and go, you can ride high atop your pony. What is that? Who is that? And then luckily the clerk at the record store went, oh, that's Stevie Nicks' solo album. And I bought it and I devoured it. And then I
Wow.
went and bought every Fleetwood Mac thing I could. And then I figured out that Lindsay wasn't Stevie and Stevie wasn't Lindsay from looking at the cover art.
Like so many of us. Yeah. So you had already heard or were familiar with some of her Fleetwood Mac work, but
Like in the
not,
backseat of the car, my mom's
yeah.
playing Rhiannon on AM
Mhm.
radio. I hate that I sound 350 years old here.
Don't,
But yes,
don't
you're right.
worry.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, I also remember a song from Belladonna, and I kind of remember Fleetwood Mac. I've got this very weird, very vague memory from very, very early in my childhood, and this would be like 6 or 7 years old, so it's not a very well formed memory, but I just remember being in an apartment uh, on an upper floor because there was a balcony, and I equate the song "Say You Love Me" with that memory, and I don't know where it is. I think it's in Arlington, Texas, because that's somewhere that we had lived when I was about that age, and somehow that that image is forever cemented in with that song, and it's so weird because I almost have it. I almost remember who's in the room. I almost remember, and I really don't. And then fast forward to 1981, and we are living in Fort Stockton in a house on Missouri, and it's getting close to my parents' wedding anniversary. And so my mother taught my sister and I to sing. She wanted us to sing "Leather and Lace" to my dad for their wedding anniversary. And I remember getting into trouble because I only wanted to sing the Stevie Nicks part.
There was no other option.
Right. I was
Right.
like, whatever, give me a bed sheet.
Sis,
Uh, uh,
you're Don Henley, get over it. Yeah.
right. And so I don't remember if we actually ever sang it to my dad, to be perfectly honest. I just remember practicing. And that gave me the excuse to take the album into my bedroom, which I had a little turntable in my bedroom, and it stayed there forever. It never went back out into the living room. I had that forever. And so that was at age of 8 or 9. And, I didn't really have what I would consider enough allowance money to go and get records or anything. So fast forward to 19, '87-ish, Tango in the Night comes out. I understand that Stevie Nicks is in a band now, and I get that album. And then I start going and like finding everything else off of that. Um, so and there's some really cool little tidbits, but I'm going to save those for when we actually review the albums themselves. But that was my introduction to Stevie.
Was just so captured by the voice, the piano, the sound of the music itself. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it had something to do with being in this giant cavernous cafeteria and all there
Hmm.
were these overhead speakers, but it just really echoed and it just sunk straight into me. And like between the lyrical content, her voice, the vocal was awesome,
Hmm.
and then the musicality, I was like, this is my thing. Like
Right.
instantaneously felt like that. And so I sought it
Right.
out, and it was. Here we
See,
are.
and here we are. Here we are. It's amazing. Um, Now, before we get into how we met, there's another player in our little dramatic story, and that's a comic book character by the name of Raven. When do you remember finding out about Raven?
Um, I always get confused now. I believe
Yeah,
it was, no, it wasn't. It was the team up, Wonder Woman comic book team up with them that I saw Raven for the first time. But
okay,
then similarly, that made me go find other things with the Teen Titans. And I
yeah,
can't remember what I found next, but that was the thing, whatever it was, that made
hmm,
me really key into the Raven character. Oh, yeah, sorry, I just I
no,
didn't
no,
write
no,
it
that's okay.
down, you know.
That's
But
what this is for.
I was so keyed into, Randy and I've talked about this, and I'm going to paraphrase something he said before. Raven had a secret, and so did I.
Yeah, 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 exactly,
And it had
exactly.
to do with emotions, and it had to do with maybe not showing your emotions to people, like, hey, that guy's
Right.
cute. And because then they
And
think you were
and
a
feeling
demon,
like the whole world was going to come apart
right?
if that secret got out.
Because they'll find out I'm a demon.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
demon.
Right.
I
And it
just
took
play
us
well on TV. Yes. Yes.
uh I didn't realize this until we started doing a little bit of research for this podcast, but I remember the um, comic book that I first saw Raven in, and it wasn't Raven that I noticed; it was Wonder Girl, because big Wonder Woman fans that we are. And I was in a grocery store, and I was on a comic book spinner, and we were buying groceries, and there was New Teen Titans number 9, where all of the Titans were kidnapped by the puppet master, so they were all hanging like marionettes, and Wonder Girl was like in the forefront, and I went, "Oh my God, I got to get that! That's Wonder Girl!" So I got that, and I read that, and then that's where I'm like, "Who is this person behind her with this flowy cloak and this wobbly word
Opera
bubble,
gloves, opera gloves.
opera
She had me at,
gloves?"
at evening gown with a cloak and opera gloves,
Right.
and giant, giant earrings.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. I don't know why that spoke to us, but it did.
certainly did.
Um, and so that's when I started reading Teen Titans, because I got in through Wonder Girl, but then it was Raven, and it was probably around the time of, surprise, surprise, Rock a Little, that I put the two together, because that's when Stevie's voice was at her cocaine raspiness esque, and it matched with Raven's word bubble. And that's also about the time when Stevie was going to rehab, and Raven was trying to battle her father in the Terror of Trigon. So there you go. I mean, it's like,
It was Wild Heart, Nightbird. It was just
Yeah.
like, okay, Stevie Nicks was writing about Raven now. Of course, she probably was. She
Yeah.
wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Whoever, I don't know. Did Stevie write Nightbird or was that a co-written song? I forget.
I think that was her and Sandy Stewart.
And Sandy Stewart, yeah. But that was when that to me, that was Stevie wrote a song about Raven.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
was when I made the
And in
connection.
fact, yes, and you made the connection with a certain young man in the green room of a theater in 19
You
uh,
make it sound like it was in the theater.
well, that's where I first read your letter,
And
or
if you
that's where
say
I first saw it.
19, I know you're trying to disguise the year. As soon as you say 19,
Yeah,
the
I
current
know, I
generation is
know,
like 19.
right? Did you use a telegraph machine? No.
Are you talking about the late 19th century? Is that when you remember? No.
Oh, these
No.
children.
Yes, these kids today. We
Uh,
love you kids today.
we do. You're gonna show us the way. You're gonna lead us into a better tomorrow.
That's right.
Anyway, so here we are. We've both discovered Stevie Nicks and we both discovered Raven. And by now we've probably both discovered we're not quite like everyone else. Um, and then what happens? Well,
It's really interesting. You just made me realize that the same year I heard Belladonna is the same year I realized I was gay. I was like, and you know
yeah,
this, viewers, listeners, Randy knows this. I was oblivious to that point until 1981. I believe it was 1981 when I was 17, 18. I don't know. I forget the
mhm,
math. The time of year matters, right? And yeah, so that was a very monumental year for me.
yeah, yeah, it was.
And then
But I took a little bit longer because I was only 8 in
yes.
1981.
And but yeah, but I think both of us at 8, everyone else knew.
I think everybody else knew too. But 1981 is also when I discovered Belladonna, and it's when I discovered the Teen Titans. So it is a very monumental year for both of us. Um, but then I go through, um, and we moved to Odessa, and I discovered theater, and I'm in an acting troupe called the Kaleidoscope Company, and we were teenagers doing children's shows for children. And I always said that I was toy soldier number 3, but it turns out I was not. I was toy soldier number 1. Yes,
The
I know.
lies.
Uh, I was in the Velveteen Rabbit. And whether I was toy soldier number 1 or number 3, the fact is the toy soldiers just did not get a lot of stage time. So I had a lot of free time in the green room. And so I would bring every, uh, I guess it was, what is New Comic Day? Is that Tuesday? Is it Tuesday? I think it's every Tuesday.
Yes,
I would
yes,
bring my
I think.
stack of comics to the theater with me. I'd stop on the on the way to the theater. I'd stop at the comic book shop and get my comics, and then I'd just sit there and read comics until it was time for me to go say my 4 lines and get off stage. Um, and so this particular one, New Titans number 74. 4. Um, I'm reading it, and in the I love the privacy issue concerns that we just did not have back then.
I don't think there are any. People are crazy. Get off my lawn.
Right.
We should go back to
Uh,
this.
I clearly we should go back to this because here we are. Um, but I'm in the I'm in the green room. I'm reading 74, and in the very back there's a letter from Tony Lower that says, "Don't you think Raven would make a great singer-songwriter a la Stevie Nicks?" I shrieked. I shrieked. And I don't know who all was in the green room, and I don't remember anything else about the rehearsal or even getting home. I just know that at one moment I was reading that, and then the next moment I was sitting in my bedroom at home. on my stepfather's typewriter, writing you a letter, like typing it out because my handwriting was horrible and I didn't want there to be any. I wanted it to be very clear what I was saying and no misunderstanding. So I typed up the letter and I sent it off that day. And that was in February of 1991.
Yep. I don't know why why did I write the letter? I do not know specifically. I think this was after that big storyline with, fighting Trigon, and at the end, Raven won, White Raven disappeared.
Yes.
So I was like, they were still had us in this limbo of what was going to happen with the character. I
Right.
even think
Right.
like, okay, comic book fans are going to be geeking out, and Stevie Pam's going to be like, "What are you talking about?" But Crisis on Infinite Earths had just been published, and every
Hmm.
character known to mankind in comic books ever was in it. One picture of Raven where someone goes, "We don't know where she is," and it freaked me
Right.
out. So I
Yes.
wrote to them saying, "Please don't kill Raven. He's my favorite
Yeah.
character, etc." And I just P.S. Wouldn't it be
Right.
cool if Raven had a singing
Right.
career, a la
Throwaway
Stevie Nicks?
line,
Yeah.
just for comic effect.
And I guess because it was kind of funny, that's why they published the letter. Because you know,
Yeah.
and then what did he say? Yeah, sure, but only
Only
if her
if her
soul self
soul
can
self sings back
sing
up.
back up, which is I'm
Yeah.
fine. I'm still waiting for this issue where it's like
Right.
Josie and the Pussycats old school animated cartoon band
Yeah.
people where the Titans are the band. I'm waiting for that. DC Comics. I'm
Yes.
waiting. You know. And
Illustrated
so
by
yeah,
Bill Jimenez.
there you go. So I wrote
Yes.
it and Randy saw it and he wrote me a letter and I got it in the mail, the post office. There's no email, there's no cell phones,
Mm-mm.
there's no
Nope.
Facebook.
Nothing.
I don't even know if there was America Online yet. It was coming, but I
I
don't
don't
know if I had
know.
it yet,
Yeah,
at
it was.
least.
Yeah. I know I didn't have internet at home.
And
I
then
didn't even have a phone in my room. That's how, yeah. We had the one princess phone on the kitchen in the
there you go.
and it had the very long cord so you
Very,
could get to
yes.
other rooms
And
for
have some
privacy.
privacy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I one day I had dropped out of college, the aforementioned college we mentioned, and I had just got a new job and it started back because I was working at a university and I could go for free.
Hmm.
And one day and mixed in with my bills and tuition bills and all the other things, junk mail was this envelope and it was typed and it was like from Texas. What the hell is this? So I opened it and I read it. And it's this incredibly sweet, earnest, little adorable letter from a teenager in Texas commenting on my letter. And I thought, oh, this is adorable. And I stuffed it in my backpack and I ran out the door to go to work and then go to school and then come home and go to work and come to school and then come home. And then it was about 2 or 3 weeks later. I remember this clearly. I was pulled out some textbooks and I'm studying and it like got stuck with the textbook. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you know what? I should write this kid, just acknowledge his letter. It's so sweet. So I did. It was like, hey, thank you for your letter. I see it too. Have a nice life. Bye bye.
Right.
Okay, that's done.
Right.
But
Moving
was
on, it was not.
it?
Because I got so excited that you wrote me back that of course I immediately wrote you back. And again, this is a pilot episode, and I don't want to get too emotional, but it was a lifeline for someone that was in Texas in a relatively small town, not terribly small, but relatively small. And also we have to remember something too that I don't think we've ever really acknowledged. This isn't in the early 1990s. At that point, Stevie Nicks is considered a washed up has been. There's not really any new music coming out. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
you.
I know. I didn't think so. And same
I
thing with
never
comic
did, and
books
I
too.
still don't. On the record.
Yeah, I didn't either. But when I would talk to people about her, that is what I would hear. And so for me to find someone who understood that she was still as relevant as she was, to me was really important because I wasn't getting that. And I mean, we're sensitive anyway. And when you're sensitive, you're even more sensitive. Uh, so for you to acknowledge that was really that important because I had no one else that would not make fun of her. And a little aside, so my car was a 1970 something Datsun B210. It was canary yellow, and the stereo didn't work, so I just had a boom box between the driver's seat and the passenger seat, and I had a cassette of The Other Side of the Mirror, and that's what I would listen to. And because I was going to theater, I would be picking up all of my theater friends, right? We'd get in the car, and anytime someone tried to change the tape, I would act like the car ran off of that music, so that if you turned it off, the car stopped. And and they would groan. Oh my God, they would groan so much. But unless that particular cassette was playing, I would not drive. So it was important to me. And so when you wrote me back, I just assumed that meant you wanted me to write you back too. And I was just persistent.
Certainly were. Because there were many times you would write me. We, for you audience, we have many of the letters. We've not tried to
Yes,
like
we do.
see if we have them all. We should do that one day.
We
But
should.
I will
That
say
sounds like a really good episode.
there were many times where he would write two or three times before I would write that
Sure,
because I was overwhelmed and all this stuff.
sure.
And so thank God for the persistence. That's all I say.
That's right.
And
That's
you
right.
mentioned cassettes. So part of, the back and forth in the letters was, hey, did you
Yes.
ever hear this song? Because again, there's no Spotify, there was
Mm-mm.
no, iPhone yet. So there's no iTunes. There might have been a couple of like pirate music things out there. I wouldn't think those were big yet. So I'm sending cassettes of like the album rarities that I had, some bootlegs I was getting from like flea markets and stuff.
It's the first time because back then Silver Springs was not a big deal. It was a forgotten song on the B side of Go Your Own Way. And that was the first time I'd ever heard it was
It
when
was
you sent it
recorded
to
off of
me.
the B side.
Mhm.
It's like here's the cassette player, here's the record player playing.
Right.
That's how I recorded it for you. Yeah.
Yes, and I played those that Garbo was on there, Blue Lamp was on there. I mean, all of those rarities, and I cherished those, and they became the fuel which ran my car after The Other Side of the Mirror. So so yeah, and so that was 1991, and we are now in 2023, and we've been best friends
Years
since.
later.
We I mean, we will get into a lot of this as we go through the podcast, but I took a bus up to Philadelphia to meet you, and then we went to New York together and toured a college that I did not get into. And then you had your 50th birthday, and that was
Well, it
the
wasn't
next
that
thing.
next year. It was
Right. No, no, no. We
a
we spent about 20 years only writing, emailing, calling, texting, Facebooking, whatever, and we weren't in a room together for 20 years. And still, even with the turmoil that is that part of our lives, because neither one of us was, I think, particularly stable the way we are now. Um, Back in the early parts of our friendship, um, and we were able to hang on to each other in times when it would have been very easy to lose touch, very easy.
I lost touch with many people during those time periods, but not you.
Yes, yes, same. Well, I think we've got enough here to play around with the editing and see if we can make something out of this. And if we can, great.
Okay,
And if not,
let's
we'll just do it again.
let's just let's make an ending then. Let's just talk for like
Okay, yeah.
1 minute and bring it home and what's
Yeah.
next. And of course, we'll edit all
Yeah.
this out, or
Yeah.
maybe we won't.
Yeah.
We'll be like a
Well,
reality show, and you get to see all the sausage making
right.
people,
Right.
but
Well,
not the
no,
sausages, because this is a family podcast.
that's right. It's a family podcast. Uh, so, I, you and I have talked about doing some version of this for years and years. We always say, oh, when we do our YouTube channel, or oh, when we do our podcast, or when we finally get that sitcom deal, or whatever. And we've joked about it, but we haven't really taken it seriously. And um, on July 28th, Rhino Records will be releasing a box set of all of Stevie's solo albums, and they'll all be on vinyl for the first time. Like Trouble in Shangri-La will be on vinyl, Need Dreams will be on vinyl, Stranger will be on vinyl, and
Until I melted in the oven. The studio album that shall not be named.
yes. Uh, so we want to use this. We want to use that box set as a catalyst for doing this. So we're going to take each album and we're going to talk about, like Belladonna. Clearly, we're going to have a lot to talk about because we've already mentioned some of this stuff. But then we can actually tie it to which songs resonate with us, which songs don't, and also where Raven is in the timeline of this and where we are in our lives. I think it's going to be a really neat,
We
fun
promise to
journey.
make it fun and funny. We promise
Yes.
to not be as wordy probably as we were today, but y'all can get over that for once.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll have visual aids and we'll have audio cues, and we do want to do some production value to this because as beautiful as Anthony and I are, we do know that sometimes you want to see something besides just our faces.
So if you got this far, thank you for listening or watching the generic, non-specific Stevie Nicks podcast.
I love that name so much. I do.
And we're here, I'm floating this, and we'll see you on the other side of the mirror.
That's it. That's it. We'll see you on the other side of the mirror. All right. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.